Welcome back to ASBR Boxing. Delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend Elliot Grigg. Elliot, thanks for joining me, mate. We're looking at three, obviously, fights this weekend again, two of which have world titles on the line, one of which has every belt in the division on the line, and that is, of course, this one we're talking about. We are, of course, talking about Saul Canelo Alvarez against Jermell Charlo. So, great fight, Elliot. Um, Good to see Canelo back in action. Whatever you think of him and his past, it's compelling viewing when he fights. Charlo obviously stepping up two weights, was undisputed. He's obviously undisputed at super welter now, fighting at super middle, challenging Canelo for all four of his belts. So my question to you, first and foremost, Elliot, is with given the how Canelo's performed recently. Do you perhaps feel that he is ever so slightly on the decline and Charlo may have a bit of a chance here?
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And I'm going to go straight into it again. You'd like to go straight into it, throwing shots immediately. I do think he's in decline, yeah, and I don't mean that in a kind of overtly negative sense. I think the guy's had what has he had like 63 fights or something. So it's like obviously there's signs on the clock. He's been boxing. We know, he turned over very very young. He's had a lot of miles on the clock for a boxer, and I think it's just I look at I suppose you have to go back to what was it 2021 when he beat Caleb Plant when he was still kind of on that run, a super middleweight run where he was still the kind of Canelo we know. And then obviously you saw lost a Bivol, nothing too negative really about that. Bivol's obviously kind of a great fighter up at that weight as well, not Canelo's natural weight. But then I look at that performance against Golovkin, third one, that was a horrible fight for both of them really in some ways. You look at that and it just wasn't it was like wasn't it? It was like seeing two guys, obviously what it was like seeing two guys that you previously have seen operating at a certain level, no longer operating at that level. So that was where I think everyone was sort of looking at it going, okay, there's evident signs of decline. And then the Ryder fight, don't get me wrong, I mean, it was a comprehensive victory, wasn't it, for Canelo, that fight as well. And Ryder's one of those fighters, obviously, that likes to bully and sort of do it in that way and fight up close. It made for a great fight, but equally, I feel like there were signs there as well, continued signs there that Canelo was on the slide. So yeah, I do think he is. Paul, to answer your question, I do think he's on the slide. I think this is a very interesting fight because obviously Jermell Charlo, many much fewer miles on the clock than Canelo, fresher in some ways, obviously in that respect, and with the physical advantages that he has as well, is a very very live opponent in this fight, irrespective of it being a two-weight jump in class for him.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. I think it's evident that Canelo perhaps is on the slide ever so slightly. And that's not a dig at him. Like he's not in terms of age, he's not old or anything, obviously. But I know you could argue that he doesn't have very many miles on the clock as well, considering he's only been beaten, obviously by Mayweather and Bivol. But I think just he's had what 61 fights. Like I don't care who you are, if you're having 61 fights, there's gonna get to he's probably just tired. Do you know what I mean? Been boxing since he was a teenager. He's 33 now. So yeah, I think perhaps maybe I agree with you, mate. I think he is on the slide. Given the fact, like, you look at the Golovkin fight, for example, the trilogy, and it's fair to say Golovkin, a lot of people think's perhaps past his best. Canelo won that comprehensively, but didn't look like getting Golovkin out of there at any stage or anything. Just kind of went through the motions a wee bit and almost looked a little bit past it himself. Then you look at John Ryder and you think a few years back, you put Canelo and John Ryder in the same ring. And again, no disrespect at all, John Ryder deserved his chance, but a few years ago, you put those two in the ring, you're expecting Canelo to blow him away inside a few rounds, really, aren't you? Um, so yeah, it's interesting. I think he is on decline as well. Given that we both agree, Elliot, and think that he's maybe a little past it, how long do you give Canelo, at this top level? How many fights do you think he maybe has left, dining on the top table with the elite?
You know what? I think I'll take it in two different I suppose tranches. That answer will be I don't see Canelo retiring either in some way. I don't see like I don't maybe but he won't necessarily be fighting at the kind of elite world championship level of going through the weights necessarily for too much longer in my mind. But I think he's the guy to me that just won't retire from boxing in a sense. I can almost see him fighting until he's 40. I genuinely can. But I think, to be honest with you, I see what I'd really like to see is obviously this fight, maybe Benavidez up at super middle, I'd love to see Crawford. Frankly, Crawford's talking about fighting him. I'd actually love to see that fight. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think maybe he's got. Well, depending on how this fight goes, obviously, if he loses this, then obviously we'll be bringing the cat down prematurely, I suppose. But I can almost see him another maybe 2 years up at these sort of big fights, maybe another 3, 4 of these sort of size maybe occasions. But then, other than that, I see it potentially, how he comes through those, obviously potentially falling off. But I think, yeah, I don't see him retiring anytime soon, Paul. I don't know. What about yourself?
Um, yeah, I don't think I maybe don't think he'll go on just as long as you think, but again, yeah, I think let's be honest, it's only going to be big fights for Canelo. I think that depends what he wants to do. If he wins this and he has all the belts still, probably is the Benavidez fight probably is next. Then you can just almost say that he's beaten everybody at super middleweight. Benavidez is probably the last one that people are thinking he'd give him a chance. Then after that, mate, the Crawford one is it's mad that we're talking about this, but that's the one I want to see. That's just the one I want to see. And I don't know whether me and you are just being, doing all of these previews and talking about boxing week in, week out has sent us loony, but I want to see that fight. I really, really do. So yeah, that's a fight that intrigues me. Just finally, before we quickly come to a prediction, Elliot, you've mentioned there that we both think he's perhaps on the decline, and we don't know how many fights he has left. Do you give Jermell Charlo a chance here? Obviously, he's a career super welter, so he's fighting at over a stone, yeah, about a stone lighter, isn't it? Yeah, it is a stone lighter, 154, and he's undisputed champion there. Defeat to Tony Harrison, but then he avenged that loss. Drew with Pistano first time, and then knocked him out in the rematch. So you'd say you can't argue that he's the best 154-pound fighter in the world. Interestingly, he's also 6 foot. Canelo's 5'8". He's got a longer reach. He is in stature and size the bigger man, despite being a career lower weight division fighter than Canelo. So do you give him any sort of a chance here?
You know what, Paul? I do give him a chance, give him a live chance, frankly. And like you said, based off the physical attributes that he has, based off, I mean, obviously, like, his CV doesn't compare to Canelo's, but like you say, he's got the victories over Castano. Tony Harrison's a good win. Obviously lost him the first time around, but obviously won the rematch. Even I suppose Austin Trout at a level is a good victory, and he's got Lubin on there as well. So he's got a credible CV, frankly. And I think he's obviously the best in that division. Obviously, would dispute the fact that he's undisputed, but I think yes, I do. I think people are sitting there talking about Canelo's size being a big factor here, but I think that's almost a misnomer. I do think that with Charlo able to essentially not go down to that weight to kind of maybe. I mean, he's not the most powerful, is he, the division either? I think his KO percentage isn't necessarily that big, so it'll be interesting to see how his power translates. Obviously, going up, Canelo's obviously shown power and the ability to stop people up at that weight. But I also feel like you say, with the evidence of decline and with the physical advantages, I think Charlo will have a go as well. I don't see him giving it the old Callum Smith approach. I think he will actually be in there and he will be live. So yeah, I do give him a chance. I'd probably trying to think about where I put this as a percentage without giving my pick away. And to be honest with you, I think it's a lot closer fight than people make out. I really do.
Interesting, very interesting. I suppose it is. May as well give our predictions now, but you've kind of segued right into it. I'll have to give mine first, seeing as if I let you think about yours while I've been asking you the questions. But um, I did it short as well, so check that out in the YouTube channel. And I just can't see this ending in stoppage either way for some reason. Yeah, Canelo is a big puncher and stuff, and Charlo obviously has a lot of highlight knockouts as well. But I can just see Canelo. Unfortunately, because I don't want him to win, and not hiding that I don't want him to win. But I can just see Canelo winning this on points, relatively wide. Not that not that he won't give it a go, Charlo, or anything. I think he definitely will. As you said, he's a live dog in the fight, but I just see Canelo winning this, 8-4, 9-3 on the scorecards. Not against like John Ryder. He nearly got Ryder out of there a couple of times, but again, he was just happy to go through the motions really as well. The Golovkin one as well. I think we could see something similar. Canelo winning well, but not stopping Charlo. So I would go for points. I don't know. Don't know what you think.
Well, like you said, we've done these videos a long time together, and where there's some sort of like transference or sort of symbiosis is occurring. Because I actually fully agree with you. Frankly, I think I don't think it'll be a knockout. I think it will go points. And I can see Canelo winning it on points. Yeah, and I think I'd be surprised if it was 9-3, but I can see the kind of 8-4, frankly, sort of difference coming in. I think it'd be convincing in that respect. I think it'll be UD, frankly, is how I see it. So yeah, I'm going to go with Canelo as well. But I'd love to see Charlo upset, frankly, just because, and not that I have the same sort of antipathy towards Canelo that you do potentially, but I think he's come across really well actually, and I've watched a lot of the Showtime stuff, a lot of the stuff that he's done, a lot of the pre-fight build-up, and to be honest with you, I've had in many ways a renewed respect for him. So I actually would quite like to see him win this, just based off that solely.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I hope so as well. But that's all we have time for, mate. And be sure to check out the other two videos we're looking at this week. We're looking at obviously there's another heavyweight. There's a heavyweight fight we're looking at for no world titles. We'll not give anything away, as well as a world cruiserweight title fight as well. So be sure to check out those guys and all the rest of the content on the channel. Elliot, thanks very much for joining me, mate, and speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Paul. And again, thank you very much, guys, for watching.